Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Craig of the Creek, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
And Alex Bonilla.
Hey.
Today we are talking the March and beginning of April episodes of Craig of the Creek. 7 episodes here that we haven't talked about yet on the podcast. The Mystery of the Timekeeper, A Lone Quest, Memories of Bobby, Jacob of the Creek, Return of the Honeysuckle Rangers, Kelsey the Elder, and Sour Candy Trials. The last 2 aired yesterday on Cartoon Network. I believe this is it for a little while in terms of new episodes, or at least for the rest of April. But we talk Craig in sporadic bunches here. Craig was actually airing weekly for a while, so that was pretty cool. Premiering on TV, and we're going over these last 7 episodes. Check out our previous Craig podcast at overlyanimated.com, on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes, or our YouTube is youtube.com/overlyanimated. We're going to be getting into spoilers for every Craig episode from Sour Candy Trials and before, so make sure you've seen everything here. This is a lot of episodes. We're planning on doing like 5, but then I saw that it was just this week and not for the rest of April, so I just delayed it for another week. So that's why we're covering 7 here. But yeah, a lot of episodes. We don't need to treat it as a chunk or anything. But Michelle, any like high level thoughts on, or anything that stands out to you from, what stands out to you most, I guess, from all these episodes of Craig?
Plot returned, which I didn't expect quite so soon. I mean, it's been a bit and a half, but it still felt sooner than I expected for the Honeysuckle Rangers to become a thing again. And now we know all this stuff about like, oh, this king, he doesn't let you do all these things, and it's terrible. We don't want him to infiltrate the other half of the creek. And that's like fascinating. So that was a huge surprise for me.
Nice. Okay. Yes, definitely big Honeysuckle Rangers episode, and the return of this plot thread from Under the Overpass and Jessica's Trail we're going to be getting back into probably at the top here. Alex, what stands out to you from these episodes?
What stands out to me is that in general, this is like, I really enjoyed this month of episodes. And I think that there are like several episodes that have different aspects of what makes this show great. And so like, it feels like a good summary of like the various things that it does well. Like Memories of Bobby has like excellent comedic timing. The Kelsey the Elder is like deep in the references sort of thing. Sour Candy Trials is again another example of the heightening of the aesthetic. Like once we like move away from the creek and like go into the weird fantasy stuff, they're always good at that, and that's another example of that. A Lone Quest is just like how strong the characters are that you care about something as simple of a storyline as that. So like each of these episodes does things different, but like they all feel just very cozy and very fun to watch. So they all do things differently. I think that this particular group is a microcosm of the things that Craig of the Creek does best, even if there's not like a high tier episode in the bunch, perhaps. But there's a lot of things that it's doing great here and like keeps my attention. Continue to be impressed by the things that they keep hitting consistently.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. There's a lot of different types. I mean, I think that's a function of just we're talking 7 random episodes of the show, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of material.
Yeah.
Admittedly.
Yeah, it covers a lot of what makes the show great, and there's a lot of different types of episodes here. So I think there's a lot of really strong ones here. I agree that there's yada yada. There's no Helen or Kid from 3030, but that's okay. I think Return of the Honeysuckle Rangers, like, I love this episode. This was like so much fun for me to watch. There's it's like the emotional connection presented, and these Honeysuckle Rangers characters and our characters. I really love Return of the Honeysuckle Rangers. That's my favorite of the bunch. But there's also great ones like Kelsey the Elder aired yesterday. That's a fantastic episode. That's really funny.
It's really funny.
I think A Lone Quest is really good as well. At least parts of it. I know we're some memories of Bobby fans here. That episode's kind of crazy. And then even lower key episode like the Timekeeper episode, I think is pretty good as well. And Sour Candy Trials is gorgeous. So I think like a ton of different things here. Craig is still going strong, still great. Supposedly in season 2, according to the Cartoon Network website, they cut it off at 40. So Lone Quest was season 1 finale. I don't know if that's like the real designation or just what we're doing. So who cares though? I think most Cartoon Network shows, the season designations are not mattering. So it doesn't, regardless, we are up to 45 here. So a lot of Greg episodes now. And very exciting getting further into the show's run. I want to start with, Return to the Honeysuckle Rangers. It seems to be what Michelle was most hype about, with the plot stuff going on. It's what I'm most hype about, with Sean and Raj. Yeah.
That was another pleasant surprise, because I know that was a thing you definitely brought up the first episode we had, and like, I feel like I ship them. Yeah, maybe that's a thing. And now it's like, oh no, like that's like canon hardcore. They're an item. They like each other.
Yeah, this is apparently someone went back on our Discord, listened to the first Honeysuckle Rangers podcast episode we did, and we called a lot of things right, including these guys were pinging it hard for me, and I was feeling the Sean and Raj in the first episode. I didn't expect the show to go into it so quickly. Maybe the crew agreed after the first episode. They were these guys were a couple. I was loving it. This might be my Craig OTP, Sean and Raj here, like even more so than the witches. Like I'm very into the Honeysuckle Ranger ship, and this is like blatantly romantic to me, between the two of them. And I think this is nothing in the show is super explicit queer rep-rise, but male queer rep is particularly scarce, I think, in kids animation these days, and Sean and Raj are instantly one of the most notable examples, I think, at least, of kids together. So I love all their moments in this episode. A ton of blushing between them, and just them being compassionate towards each other. I like that we're leading with this instead of the plot, because to me this is the highlight. But
it is the highlight.
And I'd like to add, like, I like that it doesn't feel one-sided, because I think that from what I recall from the initial, like, it was more Raj towards Sean, but like I feel like we got a couple of Sean towards Raj moments in this one as well. Like Sean blushes when Raj lifts up his flower hat in early on, and then later we have like that honest conversation at the end of like explaining how they he took the initiative to distract because Raj did something wrong. It's like, you didn't have to, but I wanted to, so it's like so now it feels like more balanced, and it also like the fact that it's adding to the story while at the same time like building up their relationship as something intimate like that. It's a very seamless blend to do, and it fits with how their interactions go in the rest of the episode.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. The gays are the plot for once. Like, this is the main plot of the show right now, and we've put Sean and Raj at the center of it. Yeah, they're both blushing. It's definitely two-sided. We mentioned I have in my notes where Raj like touches Sean's head, and Sean blushes. Raj blushing at honeysuckle strength from Sean. Sean's like carrying. Raj.
Ripping the bean back. Yeah, the carrying was great, and it came back twice.
Yeah, two carrying, and then Sean. Yeah, and then this moment of can't get it. Sean's like, I can't have you getting in trouble again with the king, and that's a really sweet moment. And then Raj, I think, blushes at the end too when they're holding hands at the end. This is guys. Beyond like, oh, this is great queer up. It's great the showing. This just made me really happy.
It's just nice. Yeah. It's just really sweet what they have. I want
to emphasize this is like made me particularly happy in a way that these shows a lot of episodes. It's like, oh, this is really good, but this is I'm super into this. This is definitely one of my personal favorites of the show, and I love all these moments here. I want to see more of this from the two of them in the show. Michelle, anything else about Sean and Raj?
Well, I guess it's nice to see that they're really sweet to each other, because there is that other thing kind of lingering that they are directly opposed to our main crew, but they're clearly not villainous. They're just, they're doing what they can to get in the good graces of the king because they messed up, basically. And you get that a lot more. But like the first episode, it really was like, I don't know who these guys are, but like they're dangerous and sneaky and we better hide from them. And now I think Craig feels really guilty that he gave them the fake map, because he feels for them and he knows they're in a tough spot and that it's not like entirely their fault.
Yeah, it's like on one hand, the ship is part of the plot, which is really good. But on the other hand, they're like antagonistic. But this episode does not paint them as that. So I think this episode does a lot of work in moving away from that. Like the main like takeaway at the end is Craig having sympathy for these two, even though he's like trying to trick them with the map and he's trying to oppose them advancing. We definitely sympathize for the two of them. We know it's the king and it's not them, and they're in like a bad spot as well. And I think the characters also, especially Craig, are also feeling for them.
And it's impressive because they do still do some kind of mean things in this episode, like invading their trunk and ripping open bean bags. I feel like if that was other characters, we'd feel a lot more unsympathetic towards them. But because later on you have the thing where Craig gives it up willingly and they're just celebratory and we don't actually want to hurt you, we just need the map sort of thing. And then we see them interacting with each other in a very kind, loving manner. So that all adds to it. So it's impressive that even though they're quote villains, but given how they act with each other and how other people internalize that information, especially Craig, that we don't actually feel it doesn't feel like an antagonist, even though we know in the story it's an antagonist.
Yeah, plus every time they do anything, they always say honeysuckle, which kind of undercuts it from feeling too intimidating.
Yeah, I think it's a great point that if Jason was tearing up the beanbag chair, it would be super unsympathetic. But these two are just too likable. They're dynamic and just them as people. They're just really likable characters, and I think we're using their romance to ground them as characters and make them likable for the audience and our characters as well. Craig is also basically shipping it, so he's noticing it and he feels for them. So it is a really interesting presentation. By the way, no Jason in any of these episodes. I just realized he was major character previously.
What a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, he's working on himself right now. He's trying to deal with his own stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He needs some time away. But no, he's the best. Come on. I thought we arrived at he being the best. No? Okay. But no, he's...
That was just you. That was just you.
Oh, that was just me. Oh, okay. No, Sean and Raj it is a super interesting presentation, and it's also this main plot of the show is surrounding it. I don't know if it's the main plot. It's more of just a recurring plot thread through
it's the one major arching story that we have so far.
Yeah, the two previous episodes I mentioned, and they're at the center of this other side of the creek, and the king, and we get more details on it in this episode. Not too much more, but we see that we get the return of the green poncho, and he's explaining to us through, I think, a gorgeous sequence of the overpass, the underside of it, and the drawings on it, and illuminating, telling the story of the king decides everything on the creek, the other side of the creek, and if he gets the map, he'll spread his influence to Craig's side. So that's why they want the map, is so the king can expand. So it's threatening the Craig side of the creek. And I think, simple plot, but works well with what we saw before. We probably basically predicted this. And, it's I think a good, it feels urgent enough. There's a lot of intrigue to it with who's the king. What's going to happen? Is going to be some side of warring sides here? We have investment in that side as well now at Sean and Raj. So I think that's another good reason that, it's another reason that plot element is really working well. Any king theories we've discussed this before on the podcast. Any king theories coming to mind after this episode?
I don't think this is a specific theory, but the usage of he'll spread his influence to the other side of the creek is an interesting way of wording it. I think my head goes to, okay, so the next step, whenever the king actually ends up crossing over, it'll be a situation where kids from the other side of the creek are hey, it's not so bad. And hey, the green poncho guy was exaggerating. It's not like that at all, sort of thing. And we'll have to go through some Creek kids that we know being persuaded and moving over to notice that it's not actually how they're saying, sort of thing. So I think that I already see the setup going on of how the story is gonna go. But the king himself, I still feel it's just gonna be a kid that we don't know yet. But I think that they're doing a good job at setting up the natural progression of how differing groups of kids end up mingling with each other after originally being wary of each other, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you're reading into the influence part of it, or it's not going to be like a takeover. It's going to be like, here's benefits of giving these things to the king or something, and the Creek kids falling for it or something like that. I want the king to be someone we know, but we've talked about this. But I don't know who it could be other than Kit, who I think is the obvious candidate because she is the most influential person.
What if Jason? He wants influence. He wants respect. What better way to get respect than to be a secret king?
That would be a big subversion of the Jason redemption arc we're on. So
that would be the Jason non-redemption.
I know
arc.
that would be shocking. It may be good. It'd be good shocking. I feel like, but yeah, I don't know. It's very interested to see this plot moving forward. Michelle, anything you're particularly interested to see about this in a future episode?
Well, the issue I have with this integration being a good idea is that it seems like Jason and Raj, the reason they want to be on the king's good side is because they're starved for friendship. Like, that's the thing, right? Jason was saying like, oh, like maybe we'll be like his best friends, and Raj is like, oh yeah, like good point. I won't eat the candy because that might happen. Like, why are they so desperate for his friendship? Why is friendship a hot commodity on the other side of the creek? That's concerning to me. Plus, they can't eat until the king. I already feel like there's a reason that they don't know about the other side of the creek and that it's been kept from them as a secret place. And it's probably not a good reason.
Yeah, that's an interesting read that it's like because they want to be... there's definitely a part where it's like, I want to be friends with the king. Unclear if it's like because they're so threatened that they need to be in his good graces, or if like... I definitely do get the sense that they're kind of lonely, though. I think that's...
Yeah, like, I think they kind of only have each other. We haven't seen them interact with anybody else on that side, and maybe they feel kind of ostracized. Well,
the explanation they give is that because Raj did this whole eating thing and Sean farted, that they were exiled. That's vaguely what I remember from the last episode. So I think it's that's the whole point, that that because they're exiled, they want to get back into other Creek society, and this is the only way they know how to like convince the king to let them do that.
Yeah, I think it's more about integrating with their the side of the creek rather than I feel like they're scared of the king. I think they would jump ship to Craig from the king. It's more just like this is their way of life. So I'm interested to see, will we get Sean and Raj going to our side of the creek? That would be very exciting. But yeah, for now, the Sean and Raj, I feel like have jumped to the top of my favorite side characters at the very least. This is such a good episode for them. The last episode is great too. I mean, there's other great ones too, and we'll get into some other. Is Bobby jumping to the top of our list? We'll get into that soon. But yeah, okay. So that's
Bobby is in this episode.
Yes, Bobby gave away the intel. Come on, Bobby. Come on.
I told them I'm your best friend.
Best friend, yeah. That's oddly sad.
Get out of here, Bobby.
I feel memories of Bobby really opened my eyes to Bobby as a character.
Okay, we'll move to that in a second. Then we can do that next. But last thing was the sewer. They get in through the sewer. Apparently we predicted this too. They rip off the part of the sewer map, and so that's how they get in. Right. I think that was like smart storytelling. It makes sense with what we saw previously, and then they seal up that at the end. So currently, no way for Sean and Raj back into the creek unless we go to their side again, which I think would be interesting. I think that's the move. We go to their side of the creek next for some reason.
Or they stage a raid and they like overpower the sewer kingdom.
Oh yeah,
like they bring an army.
The sewer. I feel like they'd overpower the poncho. I feel like that would be the way to go. This is just one guy. The sewer kingdom is like sewer queen is a legion. She was in this episode, Alex. Sewer queen.
Yeah, she was self-deprecating when talking about getting her portrait done. That was neat.
That's good. Yeah, I just hear glimmer now, so that's fantastic though. More glimmer is only good. But yeah, okay. So that's I think that's good for Return to Honeysuckle Rangers. That's love this episode. Excited to see more from both Sean and Raj and the Spotline moving forward. Since we're so going to talk about Bobby, we can move to memories of Bobby here. Because rip Bobby. He's moving away, so we have his funeral for him, but then at the end he only moved out in the street and he's still there. Alex, I've heard you're a big fan of this episode.
Look, I really enjoyed this episode because it begins ludicrously with like the whole funeral setup and JP being so extra, so like that's great. But like the main chunk of the episode is each of the crew telling stories about Bobby, but like it ends up being like them telling normal stories, and at the very end, Bobby just shows up. Oh, my candy! So like I for some reason, like the first time I watched it, the comedic timing was perfect every time, and I think also because it helps that Bobby has always been this gag character, and like just getting it all at once feels great. And then it culminates with the JP music video montage, which is just like it's on par with like some of the various absurd sequences we've had in this show before. And so like I think it builds, and then it like hits the peak, and so I just really enjoyed the timing of this episode a lot. On second watch, it doesn't hit as hard once you're expecting the jokes, but like it's still funny nonetheless.
Okay, nice. Michelle, what were you feeling for Bobby as he was moving away this episode?
Absolutely. And can we just take a moment to talk about the music video? Because that was like a decent chunk of the episode. Yes. And it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. And Bobby's got some moves. And it made me feel weird things, but it was great. And I like don't know why they did it, but I'm so glad they did, because like I'll have that forever in my brain now.
Explain weird things.
I don't know. Like Bobby's delivery on the lines, like, it was like he was weirdly talking, like
he was sultry, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. He's like weirdly sultry about like the candy, but like maybe that's just like how he feels, and like I don't judge him. He definitely likes candy; it's very established part of his character. But it was, I don't know, it was very special, and everyone sung back up really well.
Yeah, the editing in that segment is great. Like the triple overlay of Bobby coming in from the different sides of the screen. He does like all like the 80s vocal takes, like "ow, yeah," and then like JP just steps in with a sat solo at the end. It's like it really hits all the classic 80s vaporwave music video notes. It does them all really well. Mortimer is playing the electric guitar with sunglasses. So like it's the vibe was great. Bobby's delivery was great, especially because Bobby only says "my candy." So like now here up to this point in the episode, so now hearing him say full lines in like such a like weird tone is so great.
So this music video is a parody of "Candy" by Cameo. Apparently a well-known music video. I think it's a little bit before.
Wow. How did you find that out?
Well, I think this is a little bit before our time, but this is apparently a very prominently, somewhat shot-for-shot parody / remake of that video.
That's perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely Candy.
Yeah, same name Candy. Definitely should.
What if we did a parody of "I Want Candy" by Bow Wow Wow instead? That'll be like season 2 then.
Okay. Well, this is season 2. This is the season premiere, Alex. So we're only
we're season finale.
Season finale.
You guys do a different Candy music video then.
Okay. This is the thing everyone's talking about from this episode. Super like gorgeous nuts kind of sequence here. The big chunk of the episode is these retellings of memories of time they spent with Bobby. But the JP's is nonsensical, and the rest of Bobby is minimally. That's why this episode's absurd. Bobby is the most minor of characters, and the show does this. They bring like these, like Big Red had a chunk of episodes where she suddenly was a thing, and she was back in one of these episodes too. But these are not like even our secondary characters. These are like tertiary characters, and the show makes them prominent. I do think it's a funny gag.
Well, and it's a great joke that like we know him as a side character, and it's like, oh, we're gonna have an episode dedicated to him. Like, oh, we're gonna set up like them telling stories that we didn't get to see so far. But like it's literally like he's also a side character in their lives as well. So it's a full circle situation.
It is pretty good, yeah. And I do like how the episode approaches that. At one point, we do literally like say they're like, "Oh, remember Bobby was in this episode that we've seen," and no, it wasn't Bobby; it was someone else. So I think that's good. The other memories that we have are the Palamander. With the song, and then we have this very disturbing murder sequence for the Palamander. Don't look into its eyes. I was like, wow, this is too dark. I was disturbed. Then we have Kelsey's story of Quick Mud saving Mackenzie from the Quick Mud with Maney prominently featured.
The JP Maney ship is still alive.
Yes, a lot of JP and Maney here. That's another.
You're so glistening today.
But clearly two-sided, JP and Maney. So, yeah, well, I did ship rankings before, I feel like. Now, Sean and Raj are number one now, but JP and Maney are also up there, which is, no cardboard kids back yet.
I would not ship them. That was very one-sided.
We've talked about that. But yeah, I liked, the horse girl memories. And then at the end, Kelsey's like, especially because I literally dragged Mackenzie.
Yeah.
That's my fave line of the episode. And then they like abandon Bobby playing hide and seek. So that's sad.
Is this the second time we've heard the baby casino referenced? I feel like we've heard that in a different episode too, but my mind could be playing games with me. My point is we need to get a baby casino episode eventually if they're going to keep referencing it.
Yeah, we'll get it eventually.
Yeah, I feel like it's coming.
We're setting it out much like Bobby appearing in the background of episodes.
Yes.
So we do him here. And then Bobby's still around though. No need to be sad. Let's move to Kelsey the Elder, which aired yesterday. This is an episode made for us. A D&D episode of Craig. It had to happen. And also-
okay. I didn't know the rules of D&D before this, and it actually gave a pretty good base level explanation. So I appreciate the episode for that.
That's good. Okay, because interestingly, this I'm not like the most experienced D&D player, but there are some deep cuts from D&D in this. So this is not just like a setting up. This is like there's some pretty intricate D&D lore gone over in this episode, which I think is particularly notable. A lot of our shows are doing D&D episodes now. Voltron had a fantastic D&D episode. She-Ra's gonna have a D&D episode in this upcoming season. We're very excited about that. But this is one of my favorite D&D episodes I feel like I've seen because it is so many intricate references to D&D, and yet it is also like interwoven into the story and the characters with the elders very well. I feel like this is probably our most successful elder episode ever, at least in terms of their characters, and it's like surrounded by angst of them playing D&D. So I think the character motivations that are presented with them playing it are really on point, and it's also really fun. The conflict and resolution that we see as a result of them playing D&D, it rings very true. It feels very organic as I guess a person who's played D&D. So I think like this was like a delight to see. And also the B plot is them referencing a bunch of past Cartoon Network shows. So like that's also very fun. Combined, it feels like a very meta episode, especially because Craig is basically D&D like LARPing. So I don't know. Like clearly, we're gonna love this episode. Alex, Alex, we just played D&D on Saturday. That's coming up soon on the podcast. Ruby Part 2
yeah.
D&D. What did you think of how D&D was presented here?
It makes me appreciate the job of a DM more, like a dungeon master, because I feel like in these D&D episodes, it focuses on bringing the fantasy story to life, sort of thing. Whereas this one is focusing more on the mechanics of like the actual gameplay between the real life people trying to like figure out what the DM is doing and the DM making challenges. And in this case, this seems to be a bad DM, one that the kind that I have not encountered yet in my life, which is good. The kind who like is just kind of mean to their players. So it makes me appreciate the job that they have to do a little bit more. And also I think that Kelsey is perfect for this. And so and so when we get to the part where it's like, wait, I can't even narrate, like what's going on? Like it's like taking all the parts of her that are perfect for D&D and just like stripping them away. Like it feels so it feels sad and funny at the same time. And then like at the end, I'm gonna admit it feels a little cheesy in terms of like, hey, I gotta get them to work together, sort of thing. But I think that it fits with how the characters were built up to this point in the episode and them needing to like come together, sort of thing. So yeah, it was a pretty good episode, and I agree that like the D&D parts were understandable enough. I think like there were some words thrown around, but I think like even if you don't pay attention to like the specifics of their dialogue, like in the imagery is enough to explain what's going on in the moment.
Yeah, I agree the ending is a little bit tropey, but I do think it's like ends the character arcs, like I mentioned, really well. So yeah. There's a lot of D&D things we could the Kelsey thing. Yeah. This is maybe the highlight of the Kelsey narration, I feel like, of the show now. Mark like takes over the Kelsey narration.
I know, like she's in the middle of it, and then it just pans over to him, like monologuing in his brain too. It's like so creepy, but so hilarious.
And then there's a perfect shot of back to Kelsey, and she just has like the straight line face, like in blue tint. It's a perfect like one drawing shot that like finishes that scene.
That's one of the most clever gags I feel like the show's done. Just taking the Kelsey narration, combining it with D&D and a DM, and like how those interplay and the execution on it. It was really, really good. We could go. I don't know. We could go over the D&D references, but there's too.
There's
many.
like intimidation checks.
A lot of rolling.
Has anybody ever rolled that many natural 20s in like one day?
No, of course, there's going to be a lot of nat 20s. Yeah. So, but that's okay. We had usually, it also showcased Kelsey like adding her thing to her roll to get the final thing. So yeah, I could see how that would be educational for the people who don't understand D&D. It was all really fun, and Kelsey in the middle of it, and she's DMing at the end as well. Also they're like live streaming it, which is
so
I
like
think pretty funny.
2 people. Yeah.
Kelsey's one of them, and then at the end they get 6 people. It's like they have 6 people watching. I'm like, oh, I relate. That's our podcast. 6 people. Okay, we'll come back to this, but the B plot of basically Barry's with Craig and JP, and he's name dropping a bunch of past Cartoon Network / Hanna-Barbera shows. Michelle, what did you think of all this?
So when he first started doing it, I was like, oh man, that's a great Easter egg. But as the list grew, it started making me more and more uncomfortable.
Why uncomfortable?
I had this deep introspection. I'm like, is that like who I am now? Like, awful child man who's making young children uncomfortable because they don't know what the heck they're talking about?
Wow, you're Barry.
No, look. Here's the thing: that this episode is actually a warning shot to read your surroundings. So, like, of course, it's great to geek out about animation, but if you notice that the other person is not that interested in it, don't keep pushing it. Move to a different topic. Like we are allowed to be well-rounded individuals and talk about other things besides animation. But right now here in the podcast, because we're focused on animation, we can talk about whatever we want, and because we all know that we all care about it. But if you're talking with a random person you've never talked to, like Barry's doing with Craig, because otherwise, when have they ever interacted? And you should like pay attention and realize that like someone's not that interested in it. It's like, fine, let's talk about something else. Like, hey, paper planes, isn't that cool? Teach me how to do a paper plane. Like, you just gotta, be more socially responsible.
Oh, so Alex, you're saying we can still talk about it.
That's the rational reaction, but it still scared me a lot.
So you're not Barry. It's okay, Michelle. You're not.
I hope not. But like, there are Barrys out there, and it's just like, I don't know, especially like on YouTube, just so many channels, and sometimes they get really malicious, just being really dumb and saying things that they don't understand about, networks and how shows are made, and they have like a large following, and it's awful. And Barry,
I don't think Barry was being idiot
no, but like it feels like kind of just like part of that swath altogether,
Well, it's more like, what happens if Barry was in a situation where he realized he was being ignored, and that drove him to rage over his beloved cartoon, sort of thing, and like that could end up being like the YouTuber.
Okay, I didn't expect this. I thought we would just be like, yay, these references. This is interesting.
Yeah, but I think it's like the amount, right? Like if it'd been like a single gag, I'd be like, oh my gosh, he said Code's Name Kids Next Door, that's amazing. But like after he got to like the 5th or 6th reference, and you could just see Craig dying, being like, don't you want to go talk to some other old people about your old shows you like? I was like, this is terrible. Why is Barry doing this? The poor kids.
Yeah, Michelle had a strong reaction to this.
But look, the good side is when you have someone who does love cartoons, like at the very end when like Mark is in Barry's arms, it's like, do you remember that show Symbionic Titan, with like tears in his eyes, and they have like a special bond together because they get to talk about their favorite show together. Like, that's the good side of things. Like, finding people who actually do care about your shows and are willing to discuss the specifics of like the ships and the story arcs and all that fun stuff.
That's us.
Yeah, that's the
maybe
good
Michelle
side
Isberry.
What we should aspire to be.
I will destroy you, Dylan.
No, you're not there. It's fine.
It's darkest fear, and you do me like that.
I'm sorry. If am I Mark and Alex is David? Is that no? Yeah.
Do I have shiny hair under this helmet of mine?
That was an interesting moment for David.
Yeah, that was nice. It was like he's secretly like beautiful. Is that what we were supposed to get out of that?
We need a David self-esteem episode later on. Like, you know, it's like, hey, you look cool under that helmet. Let's show the world, sort of thing.
Yeah, David's great. So the highlight I think of this is getting into the references are cool part of this. The money quote. I feel like Ed, Edd n Eddy, you guys remind me a lot of that show, except mixed with Codename Kids Next Door.
No, it's true. We've said stuff like that.
I think literally that might be a quote from the podcast.
I don't think it's a quote from the podcast, but it is.
We wouldn't have phrased it like that, but we've definitely compared it to Ed, Edd n Eddy. Well, I don't think it's like specifically a podcast. Everyone, these are the obvious comparisons, but we are at the point where we could start seeing the influence of early criticism, early discussions of Craig on the show, production timeline wise. I feel like, but this is very aware because it's like Ed, Edd n Eddy, and they're LARPing like Kid Next Door. Yeah, so I think that was great. We also referenced Dexter's Laboratory. At the end, we mentioned Symbiotic Titan and also SWAT Cats and Pirates of the Darkwater. Pirates of Darkwater.
Cats?
And
he explained the show is about cats.
Show, because I'm like, why are there like cat main characters who are like people, but they're cat? Like,
these are real shows. It's before our time, which means it doesn't make sense that the elders would be into it, but it's okay. And,
reruns.
Yeah,
I guess I don't remember SWAT Cat reruns being there. So those didn't land for me because I was unfamiliar. So, but a little bit.
None of these landed for me because I was too young for any of these.
You weren't too young for Ed, Edd n Eddy.
Ed, Edd n Eddy?
Okay, yeah, they probably existed. I just didn't watch much of them.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. But I guess because shows usually don't like make specific references like this, so this was very weird to see. But they're all, I guess, Turner properties. So
and Cartoon Network is doing more of that. Like Crossover Nexus was also like way heavy with references.
This feels like the next Crossover Nexus. Yeah, this episode to a certain. I mean, it's just
references.
Gosh,
if Craig and KO get to be in the same episode and they get to be good boys together,
are we going to have a Steven Universe Uncle Grandpa situation? Is that what you're asking for?
Maybe, because both of these guys are better than Uncle Grandpa, so.
How dare you, first of all? But no, okay. I think.
How dare you?
Well, that was a great episode of Steven Universe that I don't remember. It's fine.
In spite of Uncle Grandpa, not because of him.
I'm sure it's great. Nothing else about. We'll move on. But there's a lot of also Cartoon School. That was good. That's us, and a lot of D&D stuff. Okay, let's talk about Sour Candy Trials, which also aired yesterday. Very focused as like. Bobby, the episode is let's do a bunch of segments. I feel like Sour Candy Trials, it's also segments, but I feel like it's very focused on this plotline of Craig finishing the sour candy, the pucker sucker. But it's also very focused around his family. We get he's like sour training in the beginning, and we see all of Craig's family, and Jessica wants them all to support each other. And then when Craig goes into the sour zone, he meets different versions of all his family members, and they all help him fight this version of Big Red at the end. Michelle, what do you think of this episode?
So we have to assume that we are in Craig's psyche of the sour trials, right? Having that been said, the fact that he imagines Bernard is just a big lemon head is great. Because all of his parents and Jessica, they all look like super cool, right?
Yeah.
And then Bernard's just like a lemon. I think that's hilarious.
Because he's a real sourpuss.
I guess so. I still love him.
Yeah. Alex, did you like this one?
I liked it visually. Speaking of Bernard, like one thing I wanted to point out is like at the beginning, that we focus on Craig and Jessica with the lemons, but then like to the side you have Bernard like just showing up to mom. It's like, hey, I'm stressed and I have to deal with job applications, and mom is like, hey, you gotta focus and avoid distractions. And I thought that was gonna be the end of it, and I was like, wow, that's like interesting that you just like insert a random Bernard mom conversation about like life skills in the middle of a Craig episode. Like that feels kind of nice that we're like going back to family stuff. But then like it gets wrapped up in like Craig's psyche stuff, and we keep revisiting that of like now Craig has to focus and avoid distractions sort of thing. So I appreciate it, but also I kind of would have been more impressed if they just did the Bernard mom conversation in the beginning and never touched on it again, just to like be like, hey, this is like a normal family doing stuff with Craig to the side. So but yeah, just like I like Craig family stuff, especially when they like treat it serious, when they like do serious conversations, since like that it helps to make his home feel more grounded, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it did seem like we were just doing a family segment in the beginning, but then it's interwoven throughout the rest of the episode. I really like the focus on the family. I think like the episode doesn't land completely for me just because the plot is like very simplistic, and these kind of like symbolic journey type things I feel like are never, they're not like narrative focus, et cetera, et cetera. But so it's not like the type of episode I would like with just this one thing and there's no crazy side things and crazy gags and stuff. But I love the focus on Craig's family. I think the use of it is really fantastic. Them all fighting at the end, and that sequence is just visually gorgeous. I feel like this might be the best, the most gorgeous like episode of Craig. It's so like it really lands, I guess, like visually and family thematic wise. And then I think like the gag at the end is also really good with, I had a pretty sweet family to help me out. And, JP's like, I see them too. Craig, what?
I know. The JP line was perfect.
It was really good.
JP being meta has always been a thing, right? Because
to a certain extent,
also at the end of the Kelsey episode, which we haven't gotten to yet, he also is like just reciting the plot of the episode. So like I think that they hit that several times in this batch.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good comparison. Yeah. So we'll talk about that next. But yeah, I think Sour Candy Trials is a notable episode in certain aspects, and I like that the show has this type of thing in its wheels. And I also think like we definitely shouldn't lose sight of Craig's family and should have them be definitely the backbone of the episodes every now and then for sure. I think there's a lot to like here as well. I can't believe we haven't talked about Kelsey Alone Quest yet. Our Kelsey Alone episode here. A plot. Kelsey doing stuff on her own, gorgeous reference to her. It's a beautiful day, mom. Rolling through the meadow, absolutely gorgeous. B plot, Craig trying to take a poop.
As you do.
As you do.
This is like, I feel like this episode is meant to troll me, that we juxtapose these two things here, but it's very interesting decisions. I don't know, Michelle, overall, do you think Alone Quest works for you?
Oh, totally. This is one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, interesting.
Having Kelsey get, a whole half of an episode. I mean, this isn't even her first half of an episode she's gotten just for her as a character. But I love seeing the kind of things she's up to by herself. And it's that kind of thing where if you spend so much time with people every day, you never really get to do certain things that you normally do alone. So it's nice to see what she does in her downtime when she's not with Craig and JP. And the fact that she's like writing a novel, and that's what she had hidden away behind the door that says keep at JP. And it's just like she doesn't really miss Craig and JP that much because she's enjoying the time to be by herself because she knows it's going to be like, not a very common occurrence. And I don't know, it was just really sweet and nice. And it was good to see Kelsey have that time to herself. And we could, just observe her doing what she wants on her own accord.
Nice. Totally but you didn't mention the Craig plot, though, in any way.
I'm not thinking about that. It's blocked out of my mind. Only Kelsey. It's called Kelsey Alone. So there's no Craig.
Okay, nope, no defense there. Okay, Alex, agree with Michelle or disagree?
Mostly agree. Like, I just find this episode fascinating because if you explain it like with any other show, it's like, hey, we're going to take this character alone. They're just going to like act out some thing in their head. Then they're going to like run through the forest for a bit. and then they're gonna like lay down and do nothing. And it's like that's nothing happened. But like with a character as interesting as Kelsey, like her acting out things is like she like gives it her all in that. Like her running through the meadows, like she's also like doing action with that. And then like when she is able to get Serenity, like it feels a little different because we don't usually see her like that. And then, like at the very end, like she finishes up, and right on time is when Craig and JP come back, just as like she is like done with her like getting the stuff out of her system. So like I just find it interesting that like Kelsey is such a good character that I am in love with this story, like from beginning to end. Even though like if you described it in words, it wouldn't sound as interesting. I think that's a credit to like the musical selections in this, the different voices that Kelsey's voice actor is doing, especially in the beginning with the acting out. So yeah, like I'm just. It's not my favorite of this group, but like it's way impressive for like how much it's doing with just one character and with as little story as possible.
You know, I see we still haven't mentioned the Craig pooping plotline yet.
Why do you keep wanting to go there, Dylan? Is that your favorite part? Are you compelled?
Alex was talking about Kelsey getting it out of her system. I'm like,
okay, sure.
But no. So I co-sign the Kelsey. The Kelsey parts are super gorgeous. I love her writing Robin and the Snow Sword and like acting it out. That's like my favorite thing of this episode, acting out as she's like writing her YA novel. And yeah, her tumbling through the meadow. It's a beautiful day, Mom. Such an incredible moment. And then she's like a squirrel at one point and getting seed from Mortimer. And, yeah, just, I love that she's writing a book. Love all the aspects of this. It sounds like you guys hate the pooping plotline though.
I hate it. It's just, I mean, it's hard to like think about poop that much when like you're not the one pooping.
Well, look, it's a relatable situation,
yes,
but I just feel like it's given too much focus. Like this feels like it should be a Kelsey alone episode. Like when we keep cutting back to Craig and JP, it's like, well, can I get back to Kelsey? I was having fun with that. So and like they try to make the Craig JP stuff funny with like the spiders and like the exchange between Craig and Jessica.
Jessica was good.
Yeah, so they're trying, and so it's not a dud necessarily, but it's just I when I'm watching, it's like, can we get back to Kelsey sort of thing?
Definitely.
And by the way, the initial focus on Craig's butt clenching is like quite a shot to like get in there. And like and whoever was in charge of making the sounds of like, you know, like Craig's stomach rumbling as like it's coming up, like that person deserves like a good pat on the back for getting it very accurate. So good job for him for portraying bowel this
yeah, we need it accurate.
Yeah. So good for him.
I think Craig having to hold in, going to the bathroom is a totally valid plotline for this show. I think that it makes a lot of sense. I think this is something that all of us experienced as kids.
Sure.
And it makes a lot of sense to have this type of plotline. I rally against fart jokes on this podcast, but this is not a fart joke. This is like a legitimate plotline.
But can I say, Kelsey letting out a fart right after they leave is great.
That was really great.
That's like a character moment. That's not a joke, so it's fine. The problem I have, so I think this actually plotline is completely fine as a B plot. It's just like, why is this juxtaposed with this gorgeous Kelsey
Exactly.
Like, this is such a deliberate decision. Like, out of all the A plots in the history of the show, this is the one you should not put this with. So it feels like they did that on purpose in order to like prove the biggest contrast or something. Or maybe it was just born out of the plot of separating them. But it is. I mean, I don't think it like turns out super badly. It's certainly not a disaster of an episode. I think it's ultimately a good episode, and the juxtaposition isn't that bad, but it's still, I feel like everyone's takeaway from this episode is going to be like, oh, why were these together? Why couldn't we have just had the Kelsey parts? That being said, I do think like this type of thing with Craig and going to the bathroom, I think it is the type of thing this show should do, if any show, because I think that's relatable from being a kid. And also like Kelsey's dad, I think, is a big part of the Craig people.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the highlight is Craig at the end coming back and like smirking with the biggest smirk after he successfully went to the bathroom.
JP says he's glowing. Have you ever felt glowing after a big poop?
I feel it.
You do? Yeah, you feel that way? Okay.
I'm not gonna go there.
It was fantastic.
Right before that, there's a very chonky Mortimer flapping up onto Kelsey's head.
Chonky,
that was a pretty cute moment.
Oh yeah, Michelle comments on the chonkiness of Mortimer.
Very chonk, absolute unit, bird. 5 out of 5 stars.
Okay, we can be on board with birds too. That's good. Charades was another big part of this too. This episode, and yeah, JP's like giving the whole thing at the end too. Okay, let's talk Jacob of the Creek. This is Craig being he gets his hair, he cuts his own hair, and everyone thinks he's a new loner kid. He's relishing in it, and we learn at the end he was continuing it and shaving his head on purpose, but then he makes it up and declares his loyalty to Kelsey and JP at the end. I think we get a lot of fun minor character stuff too in this episode. The Ninja Kids, I feel like we've gotten almost none of them since like the beginning of the show, and their secret manga collection. And I love Craig like blushing while reading Ninja X Ninja in like the next scene. I think that's fantastic.
Is that yaoi? Or
I don't know. We got to dive into that deeper. Alex is like, is this yaoi I've heard of?
Yeah, like I'm not even sure about what it means. I think I know what it means.
Well, you see, then we get the tea timers are back. I love the tea timers. I was a big fan of them in this episode. Big fan of this quote too. I heard the tea timers have fake snacks and like to cause drama, says Craig. And that's a thing of the past. Now we have real snacks and like to cause drama.
At least she's honest.
She's on team drama, so am I. It's great. That's why I love them. This is the best. And then Craig walks out with the cupcake at the end. So I think there's a lot of fun minor character stuff. We also get the paintball kid. I'm still not a fan, but that's okay. And there's the time machine as well. That's some fun stuff. Yay or nay, Michelle, on the episode?
A fair yay, but maybe not necessarily an enthusiastic yay. Like, yay for Bobby.
Bobby?
Yeah.
Oh, the Bobby episode. Or just Bobby in general?
We're in the Jacob
both.
episode.
Is Bobby in this episode? He might have been.
He's in a lot of them. He might have been in that one, too.
Okay. Alex, the favorite part of this one?
I give it a nay just because, like, I don't know. We've had several of these where, like, the Craig kind of like brushing off his friends sort of thing is like just not a story I'm that interested in. We're using side character groups like you mentioned. We haven't seen enough of them, so I guess we need this is the opportunity to sprinkle them in. But they're not groups I care about really. Like if you replace these with like say the biker kids or the horse girls, I might pay a little bit more attention. But like ninjas and paintball kids, like well, who cares? So I think that this one suffers from like choosing groups that haven't been mixed in enough, and also Craig just not being that likable here and kind of going away from his usual personality sort of thing. So yeah, it's okay, but like compared to the rest of these episodes, it's certainly not as good.
The structure is tiring, but I think the episode doesn't focus on it that much, and it's very quick at the end with the whole, oh, you're tricking us, oh, you made it up. Like, I feel like, it's okay if we have that stuff. It's not too big of a part of the episode. I think there's a lot of fun stuff with the project and all the minor characters, and also, like, Craig pretending to be Jacob, I think is pretty funny, too. So, I don't know, I don't think this is, I think this is a middle-of-the-pack type Craig episode, but
best part is Jessica dressed as an elbow, but, like the
that?
pasta elbow.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm an elbow.
It was adorable.
It's a lot of Jessica. It's good. Yeah. Okay. I think all we have left to discuss is Mystery of the Timekeeper. So we delve into Beth, the Timekeeper. Justice for Beth. Basically, Beth goes missing. They all try to be the Timekeeper, and then at the end, they find her and befriend her, and she's back. So, Michelle, are you a fan of Beth?
I mean, Beth has I guess actually Beth's situation's pretty fine, right? Because she's saying like she doesn't really play great with other kids, but this way she can contribute, but also be like close to them proximity, but still do her own thing. So I guess like she's found a system that really works for her comfort zone, and that's good. I feel very bad for her that she took it so hard when she forgot about daylight savings time. It was one day, girl. You can forgive yourself. It's not like they pay you to do this. It's pro bono. You're allowed to mess up.
Cartoon Network aired this episode on Daylight Savings Time Day. Like,
did they actually?
Or like the day after. Like,
yeah, on Monday. And like,
there's definitely a coincidence, but there's no way that was on purpose. But this, Alex, Beth, thoughts?
I love Beth. I feel so sad for her, and I think that it's another interesting kind of kid to introduce to the Creek. The kind of kid who like knows that all the kids hang out at a certain place, but they can't really like they don't know how to integrate themselves. So like they go there, but they like kind of stay on the edges, and like when they're needed, they like jump in, sort of thing. Like I feel like this is me in elementary school in the playground, where like I'd be like in the corner of the playground, not really like in the main part where like all the kids were like hanging around, but like if somebody like needed me to like fill in on a team or something, then I'd like jump in and whatnot. So anyways, I think that these are the kind of kids that also deserve love, and also I like that the end it's like, hey, like I have a real name, it's Beth, and Craig is like, yeah, so we'll like check in on you, like now like we care about you now, and now that we know that you have feelings and things, so like it's all great, it's all great.
Now that we know you have feelings and things.
Well, I think that it's some like when you're in such a large group, like there are people like that can sometimes get like put by the waist, like wallflowers, you know. And so like a situation like this like gives people the opportunity to realize like, hey, you're actually important and you should be valued for what you're doing here. And so I like that like it's a nice message to give, like, hey, like also like show some focus for like the kids who maybe aren't as active around, but like, you know, they're around, and you know that they like fill in things every once in a while. Like, you show them the love that they deserve too.
I think Beth is super sympathetic, and I think it's the type of fan favorite type of character. I think how the episode approaches her is pretty good, and I like if she was like really going to be friends with them, it would be nice. But it's still good, and I love the end of the episode.
Even something as little as like, you know, like them calling up to her every once in a while, like just talking to her, like that would be an improvement from what it was before. So like small steps.
I'd like to see
throw
them.
Her
just
more choco rolls.
Yeah, choco rolls. I'd like to see them calling to her in random episodes. That'd be good.
Maybe Kelsey will work out with her because she's swole.
Yeah, I feel like that's the highlight of the episode for me. Kelsey about the potential Timekeeper. She's probably swole as heck. Tubas are the densest instruments on the planet. Kelsey with all the slang here. Swole as heck, dragon later. She also reference cheese sticks later. So Kelsey got to hang out with Wildernessa. I feel like it's a pretty gay episode for Kelsey in this one as well. Oh yeah, that's the number one ship is Kelsey and Wilderness. I completely forgot. So that's probably, I don't know. Ooh, what do I like more? That's a tough debate. I got to get the Craig ship rankings down. I got to go over that later. There's too much to cover here.
Where does Craig and Kit fit?
Yeah, we debated that too. I love that ship too. Okay, so the show has too many good ships for being about children. Like it's good. I feel one of my favorite gags was them playing as bride and bridesmaids randomly in this episode. I thought that was really cute. And then they're like taking over for the Timekeeper, and Craig gets bored. JP like bangs the drums too early, and Kelsey's like late and yelling around to everyone. And everyone like gets grounded for being late to dinner. I feel like that's harsh. I feel like I don't know if late for dinner. It's grounding, but I don't know if you guys have comments on that. But also at the beginning, there's a good gag at the beginning too, with they're like watching Maney jumping. It's like, oh, look at them jump, and then Handlebar, look at them jump, and then Bobby jumping for candy. What
Poor Bobby.
So much Bobby, jeez, yeah.
And then later in the episode, like Bobby is getting candy from Kit, and they knock him out to like ask.
I know, it was so brutal. You hear him like fall and make a thud sound.
Yeah,
my candy. Yeah,
this is a real banner month for Bobby.
Yeah, big Bobby. Yeah, it wouldn't have been at the top of my list for characters to push to the spotlight here, but we made the most of it while we were doing it. Okay, Michelle, any last thoughts on any of these episodes or closing thoughts on Craig here?
Excited for more Craig as always. I mean, a little curious about plot stuff, but they can hold back. Like, seeing everybody else and just seeing the world be lived in is always nice enough. And I'm in no hurry to advance plot things. I want more Bernard and more Jessica. I'll say that. Those are my two things I really want.
Yes. Yeah, not too much Bernard. We had a few Jessica minor things here.
Yeah,
but,
poor Bernard. He needs to come back.
Lemon Bernard. No, you don't want the return of Lemon Bernard?
No? I mean, I think his presence was like fine and humorous, but he doesn't need to return in that form.
See, we need real Bernard. We don't need Craig's image of Bernard. That's the thing.
I want full on Bernard, 100%. Full on Bernard.
Full on Bernard. I forgot to mention. I think I found the nostalgia of the podcast was the sour candy thing. I did find that very nostalgic.
Totally.
Yeah.
What do we think they were like? Because I assumed warheads, but was it like the lemon candy?
Lemon head, yeah,
lemon. Like, because warheads are way more sour than lemon head, so I'd like to think they were referencing warheads.
Yeah, I feel like I was like really like afraid of like sour candy as a kid. Like, oh no, it's too sour. Now it's like,
sour candy's the best.
Yeah,
because Craig got to the end, so like when you get to the very end, it stops being
sweet,
sour entirely, and it's just sweet, and it's like, oh yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
My nostalgia was the 80s music videos.
Does that? Okay. Did you watch a lot of 80s music videos?
VH1 Classic was on our cable package. So
okay.
I probably watched more of those videos than I care to mention.
Nice. Okay. Alex, final thoughts on these episodes.
I know it's only April, but is it too early to begin the campaign for Kelsey Best Main Character?
No, of course not. I was pushing last year. We just didn't get her through.
Okay, well, I think that after this month, I think we have enough of a case now to really push her to the forefront, because episodes that focus solely on her, or at least she's the main part of the crew that gets the most focus, those just seem to hit at such a high rate. Kelsey, the alone Kelsey, besides the poop stuff, but that episode is great, and the Kelsey the Elder is pretty great in part because of her contributions to it. So Kelsey is a star, and we are blessed to have her around. And the rest of the show continues to be great. It just keeps hitting the things it's good at. In this month, it had a good blend of various styles that it's hit well in the past. And so we're gonna wait to see more episodes. But if this is the last bunch for a while, it's definitely leaving on a really high note for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is a good place to stop for a little bit with Craig, because there's a lot of great episodes here, and I definitely agree. Kelsey's a super standout character, continues to be. Use of her and Kelsey the Elder is so fantastic, and also a Lone Quest, so that's a good showcase of that character. Return of the Honeysuckle Rangers, just really love that episode, really memorable one for me that I'll take away from this bunch, and also we'll remember Kelsey the Elder a lot as well for all the D&D and references and stuff, and but just no episode in this bunch I was really down on. Each had something to contribute, I think, in a major way to the show. And we'll see whenever Craig comes back.
Michelle, did this make you want to play D&D one day or nah?
I mean, so the one thing that intimidated me is it seems like it takes a long time to fill out those character sheets, but if someone would fill it out for me, like Mark, then I'd be down.
You just want to play with a default character then?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Mark did, yeah. Yeah, we Andy helped us out with our Ruby campaign. He yeah, so it's if you've a helpful DM, it's okay. But I agree. It's a long character sheet. Okay, we'll get Michelle on a D&D thing one day.
Craig of the Creek D&D. Choose your kid.
Basically just Craig of the Creek, yeah. So we'll be back when Craig is back to discuss more Craig episodes. There was an episode like Fort something that was supposed to air and did not air, so don't know what's up with that, but I assume that'll air soon. Let us know what you thought of this batch of Craig episodes on overlyanimated.com, on the YouTube comments at youtube.com/overlyanimated, or our Craig channel, and our Discord at overlyanimated.com/discord. You can support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Beatrice, aka Beatrix Cavendish, and thanks as always to our patrons, executive producers, John Ryan, Steve, Alex, Beatrice, and Hugh. Check out other stuff at overlyanimated.com, including Star vs. the Force of Evil coverage, which while we were recording, Disney announced the rest of the Star episode dates. So I was like distracted by that a little bit. The series finale will be on May 19th. A bunch of other stuff, including that D&D podcast we referenced, will be out at some point this week at overlyanimated.com. And DC Superhero Girls coverage, Beatrice hosted that. We had Brave Little Toaster podcast.
We did.
Not appropriate, but check that out if old enough. And other stuff at overlyanimated.com. Thanks for listening, guys. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.